What's up, everybody? Welcome to another one of my album ranking tier list video things. I'm Josh Cannon. This is my channel, Dancing with Ghosts. Someone recommended that I do Depeche Mode. I probably would have gotten to them eventually. I think I was saying in my other video that I was going to do Radiohead next, but Depeche Mode is being honored in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, so I thought, okay, that's a good point that my friend made who suggested that I do this video. So here we are, and I'm excited to do this because I'd say in like the last 5 years, Depeche Mode has become one of my favorite bands, just as far as the innovation and inventiveness of their sounds. This is going to be a fun list because I'm aware of almost all these albums, and they have a lot. They've been around for a long time, and this will be a fun discussion to go through their various evolutions. Now, this particular tier that they have here is kind of weird because it's instead of having it like S through F or D or whatever, they have God tier, nearly perfect, really like, meh, and no opinion or haven't listened to it. I like that they have the no opinion, haven't listened to it option because there are certain Depeche Mode albums that will go into the more of the no opinion or more of the meh category. So without further ado, let's get started. So beginning their career, we have Speak and Spell. That's going to go in the meh category. Now, if we pull up the tracks here, the most notable song on this album was Just Can't Get Enough. It was the band's first real single, and it had their original band member, keyboard player guy in the band, who was, hold please, was it Vince Clarke? Yeah, it was Vince Clarke. And if you look at the music video for Just Can't Get Enough, Vince Clarke is like the only like actual like tough looking dude in the band. Literally everybody else in that band looked like little babies. Like, go and watch that video. They look like little fucking babies. And Vince Clarke is the only one who looks like he has any kind of like punk rock cred with his like leather jacket, but he like actually looks, tough instead of, like they all look like they're ready for some like S&M party sessions, especially Martin Gore. But anyway, this album it's a nice early synth pop album. You can tell that it is very directly influenced by Kraftwerk, one of the first electronic music bands ever. I feel like in later songs on this album, you can kind of see the darker direction that the band was going in. It sounds pretty dated overall nowadays, and it's not really something that I would listen to per day to day if I was like really going, if I wanted to listen to Depeche Mode or an album in general, I would not put on Speak and Spell. But it is an important first release for them, and it was a good enough kind of idea. I felt like they were kind of being marketed as like a little pop band for younger girls. But then they came through with their next album, A Broken Frame. I'm also going to put this in the meh category because they have so many better albums that are coming up. On Broken Frame, there aren't any big hits on this album. This might have been a bigger album in the UK than it was in America. On this album, we have all the tracks written by Martin Gore. Vince Clarke had already left to form Yaz or Yazzo or whatever the hell. But anyway, so I would say with this album, they're definitely getting more ambitious with songs like Nothing to Fear, which is a more minor key instrumental synth jam, which was cool. I mean, like, how many times in the early 80s did you have these kind of synth pop jams with no vocals over it? The songs are a little darker. You can see the tone is slightly more serious, and it's less bubblegum. Still very synth pop, but it's becoming less Kraftwerk, and it's turning more into their own sound. But still, I gotta say, this album does sound a bit dated, and I would not go to this album if I was hankering for some classic Depeche Mode. So, getting into Construction Time Again. I'm going to put this in the... I wish they had a like instead of just really like, because I would honestly put this between meh and really like. I like Construction Time Again. I don't really like it, so just keep that in mind. With this album, we see one of the first Depeche Mode songs that I personally really like, which is the song "Everything Counts." This is a popular song amongst a lot of Depeche Mode fans. You start to see Alan Wilder, their new keyboard player, start to write more with songs like 2 Minute Warning. Again, this album is getting even darker than A Broken Frame, which still isn't that dark, but darker. The lyrical content in and of itself, it's starting to get more serious. With the song Love in Itself, and they talk about environmental concerns with the song The Landscape is Changing, which is just a straight up environmentalist song. And then you get more classically defined Depeche Mode, like the aforementioned Everything Counts. So with Depeche Mode, it's just this very obvious evolution. I don't know if there is a band out there where the evolution from album to album is more stronger than with a band like Depeche Mode. So moving on to their next album, we have Some Great Reward. I will put this in the really like category, and I do really like this album. Unlike their previous one, I just kind of liked it. But Some Great Reward has the first kind of hit for them that really defined them as who they were going to be, which is people are people. You got songs like Master and Servant on here. You got songs like Blasphemous Rumors, which lyrically I find is a really interesting line. I don't want to spread any blasphemous rumors, but I feel that God has a sick sense of humor, and when I die, I'm going to find him laughing. I mean, that's dark, man, for a band who started off with, I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. You know, like, to go from that to this by your fourth album. And let's not forget, this is also during a time in the music industry where record labels were giving bands these multi-album deals. They were giving bands time to develop their sound. Unlike nowadays, where if your first song, that not even album, if your first song that you release doesn't pick up enough traction, then you're done. You don't get a chance to grow and evolve. Just think that if Depeche Mode had that same deal in the 80s, and as soon as they released Just Can't Get Enough, it didn't pick up heat, and the label's like, well, this band sucks, let's ditch them. You would have just ditched one of the most influential bands of the 20th century if you had done that. But the music industry was more fruitful back then, with people actually buying music instead of pirating it, or the meager sales that you make off of streaming nowadays. But getting back to this album, Some Great Reward, I mean, the first track, it's again, I keep saying this, but it's even darker, even more experimental, more immediate. The song Something to Do. Is there something to do? 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 I mean, it's fantastic, like this very eminent sounding keyboard part going on. And then David Gahan, It's David Gahan, goddammit. He's evolved from this little boy and Just Can't Get Enough. Now he's coming off as this dark and brooding seductive force that just pulls you in songs like Lie to Me. He's definitely stepped into his own as a lead singer and as a frontman. Then, of course, you have the song Somebody, which is one of the worst written love songs lyrically I've ever heard by Martin Gore, who does lead vocals on this song. Martin Gore's lead vocals are hit and miss for me. I typically think that they add to the song, but sometimes I just think he sounds like wimpy and just not cool. Somebody is definitely one of those songs. The lyrics are just... they're just really bad. It's a love song, as I said. And it's like, there's one line that really bugs me. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. So the line, he goes, someone who'll stand by my side and give me support and in return she'll get my support. Like, wow, those are genius lyrics. I mean, you just ended your first line with support, and then you end your second line with the same exact word. You don't even try to rhyme it. But who am I to sit here and judge Martin Gore's sense of poetry? None of that matters, though, because after Some Great Reward, we get into the period of Depeche Mode that I'm so excited about, that the period that just really like set a fire under my ass when I really started appreciating and delving into this band. And I actually own this t-shirt. I don't know why I didn't wear it for this review. I wore my Mr. Sparkle Homer Simpson shirt. But anyway, the next album is Black Celebration. And I think I'm going to put this album in the nearly perfect category here. Black Celebration was a clear delineation, a clear line in the sand where, I mean, in the very first track, which is the name of the album, Black Celebration, that it comes in with this very industrial, dark, metallic sound. It sounds like a dark thunderstorm over New York City at night, with Dave Gahan, goddammit, sitting as Batman on top of a huge building. Let's have a black celebration, with this really dark, ominous music. Fantastic opening song, great song. Then you get Fly on the Windscreen. All these songs have their completely own feel. This album stands out so much from the bullshit that was in the 1980s. I mean, think about all the bullshit that existed around 1985 to 1986. You had all the hair metal crap coming up. Yeah, just all the overly reverbed, fake, drum machine pop. Even though Depeche Mode used a lot of drum machines, they used all the electronics in such an inventive and creative way that it completely made up for the fact that it's not a real instrument, bro. Fuck off. The originality was there in spades, so it didn't matter. And that's what I look for in my music, is originality, not, oh, did a real instrument actually make that noise? Why does that fucking matter to people so much? Anyway, you got A Question of Lust, which is a fantastic Martin Gore track. He does lead vocals on that song. Great song. You have A Question of Time. Then you have Stripped. Oh my goodness. This is an industrial, dark pop wave masterpiece. Rammstein covered this song on their 1998 album Sehnsucht. And it's just a great song. Let me see you stripped down to the bone. Fantastic song. Here is the house where it all happened. Yeah. Dressed in Black, New Dress. Great fucking album. Love that album. Oh, then we get Music for the Masses. This, from Black Celebration to Ultra, for me, is Depeche Mode glory years. Music for the Masses, also a nearly perfect album. Never Let Me Down Again. We're starting to get into Depeche Mode's more rock feel oriented period, almost purely industrial in every sense, in the case that they are involving not like outright rock guitars, but the feel is there. The drums have a little bit more power and a little bit more hair to them. I think they're using like a real, more realistic drum sound in a lot of these songs. Strange Love is a great song. I love to sing that in karaoke. Strange love, strange highs and strange lows. Strange love, that's how my love goes. You got Little 15, which is got such a great minor sounding chord progression that's used, and the melody is creepy. Behind the Wheel is a great song. I mean, this is just dark industrial goth music, but with a great pop sensibility at its finest. These are the critical period albums for Depeche Mode, and Music for the Masses is definitely no exception to that. Up next, we have Violator. Of course, this is a huge fan favorite, and you would think that I would put that in the God tier, but to me, Violator is not a God tier record. It is an amazing record for sure. It's got their biggest track of all time that most casual fans or non-fans even know about, which is Enjoy the Silence. My band Dancing with Ghosts covered Enjoy the Silence. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. It's overplayed. I'm over it, you know. That might be because my band covered it, which isn't really fair to the song itself, but I feel like a lot of the songs on this album are overplayed. Personal Jesus was a huge song for them. The swing style, the don damble dan dan doom dan dan your own. You know, it definitely was innovative for them. We will hear in their later albums they vie for that blues swing sound a lot, and I don't know why they got such a boner for that sound in their later albums, but this is the first time you really see them do that. You know, pretty much every song on this album is become a classic. World in My Eyes, Halo, Enjoy the Silence, Policy of Truth. Policy of Truth is another really big song for Depeche Mode. But for me, I just I know that if I had heard all these songs for the first time, I'd really like them. But it was one of those albums that was just so prolific that you just heard, by the time I had gotten into Depeche Mode, I had already heard those songs so much that there wasn't anything really there for me to discover that really excited me. But this next album, Songs of Faith and Devotion, is God tier, my friends. This is not only my favorite Depeche Mode album, but just one of my favorite albums of all time. Especially where I'm at now in my life, with where I'm at with how I'm writing songs, with my appreciation for experimentation and tones. This album is God tier. It's got everything I love about everything. It's got rock guitars, or distorted guitars, I should say. It's got distorted synthesizers. It's got heavy drums. The album itself is heavy. The production style has jumped from the late 80s, early 90s to very 90s. And if you know anything about 90s albums, most of 90s rock albums have that harder, heavier production style because alternative rock was starting to take hold. Dave Gahan had spent a lot of time in LA around this time, and he was influenced by a lot of the alternative rock bands he was seeing, like the Soundgardens and the Nirvanas at the time, and it inspired him to grow his hair out and grow his facial hair and kind of get more of that alternative, grungier look. Depeche Mode did play into that time, did play into that genre, but you know what? It sounded great, you know, and I love that genre and I love that time period, so if they're playing into that, I'm loving it. And I mean, I Feel You is a great song. Walking in My Shoes, it's all more guitar oriented, and it's just creepy. It's got those minor melodies, those minor keys. Condemnation is a beautiful ballad where Dave Gahan purposely tried to blow his voice out when he sang the song, so you can almost hear the ripping of his vocal cords at the top of his range. Mercy in You is a great song. With the mercy in you. In Your Room is a great song, very groove oriented. Although I will say the album version is a lot better than the music video version they released on MTV. On the MTV version, for whatever reason, they released a more guitar oriented, like poppier sounding version of In Your Room, and the album version is a lot more subdued, and it just kind of creeps into your ears, and it's a lot better. Track 8, Rush, is one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs of all time. I don't know what it is about that song, but it just is so... It blends the electronic drums and the heavy synths and the guitar, it just perfectly in the melody. When I come up, when I rush for you. Love that song so much. One Caress, I believe that's a Martin Gore song. Good song, Higher Love. I just fucking love that album. I can't say enough positive things about it. And then we get to 1997's Ultra. I will put that... Oh, gee, I have to see what songs are on it. I'll put it in the nearly perfect category. Yeah, okay, so another great album, although I will say less of the songs on here. Oh, wait a second, it's got Home. No, it's going into the God tier. Home is another one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs of all time. When I was listening to their greatest hits when I was trying to get into the band more a few years ago, Home was the song that really got me into, okay, this band is weird, this band's doing different stuff. I am interested in what they're doing. I want to hear more. The melody on Home is so bizarre and so well written, and Martin Gore, it is his best crowning moment in singing. His vocals sound so great on that song. Here is a place from the emptiest space, a case of the empty. I'm bad with lyrics, you have to excuse me. But it's got Barrel of a Gun. That's a great song. It's No Good. Everyone loves that song. Useless is a great song. Yeah, so it really is God tier. And then 2001 happens, and Exciter comes out, and if they had a like category, I would put it in like, but unfortunately, I'm more meh than really like. Exciter is a much softer album. It feels much more adult contemporary. Dream On was the single that they released. I remember actually when they released the song Dream On, and they were playing it on VH1 a lot in the music video. They were playing it on VH1 a lot. And I don't know, it felt weird. It didn't feel like a Depeche Mode song. It definitely had a weirder vibe to it. And then you have track 2, Shine. I know you can shine for me. It's not that hard to shine for me. I don't know. I just wasn't into it. When the Body Speaks. When the body speaks, the mind listens. It's just, it's pretty soft. Free love. This is free love. I don't know. I just wasn't into it. It felt softer. Felt like they were kind of losing their edge on that album. Wasn't really that into it. And then we get into Playing the... it's not Playing the Angel. Yeah, it is. Playing the Angel, which came out in 2005. I will put that in the... Haven't really listened to it, and a lot of these albums are going to fall into that category. Playing the Angel, what I have heard of it, it definitely, they went back to their heavier sound, which I was excited about. And their the synths and all that, they're kind of bringing it back to their 90s period on that front. The melodies around this time are a little bit more generic. They're not really doing anything for me. Nothing's really grabbing my attention. Dave Gaughan's voice is starting to get more noticeably older sounding. It's got kind of a more different tone to it, which happens to all singers. It happens to everyone. It'll happen to you. It'll happen to me. But I'm just saying it's didn't really do that much for me. I'll see if there's any notable tracks on this album from my recollection. I remember seeing Pain That I'm Used To, Precious. Those two ones I think were singles. They never really did anything for me. I don't really remember them. So, there you go with that one. Then we move into Songs of the Universe. I wish I could put this one in like, because I don't really like it, but I don't meh it either for a couple reasons. Sound of the Universe, I actually remember when this album came out. I almost thought about buying it, but I wasn't quite into Depeche Mode when it first came out. I feel like Wrong, that's another one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs of all time. Where the fuck did this song come from? Right when you thought the band had kind of like written their best material and their best material was behind them, they come out with Wrong, which is just this synth-heavy, classic Depeche Mode sound. Dave Gaughan is on top of his game with this great melody, creepy-sounding, plunky, creepy, crawly sounding synthesizers on top of this very distorted Moog octave bounce. Not to mention the fantastic music video that for some reason is very difficult to come by in North America, at least, with this guy who's woken up and he's in this car that's driving in reverse and the steering wheel's been ripped off, and it just fits the song so well. And then at the end of the song with Martin Gore's "Too Wrong" over, David Gaughan's "I was born in the wrong seat, in the wrong time, with the wrong ascendancy, too wrong." Like, it was like classic What's Great About Them. And they also have another great song. They have a few great songs on this album. So this was like a real highlight when you kind of started to think the band was falling off. Because then track 7, they have "Peace," which is a great "Peace will come to me," which is a really this very big chorus where a bunch of different voices are singing that melody at the same time. "Hold a Feet" is a fun song. "Fragile Tension's a good song. This album was a really, it was a higher point in their career for sure. Moving on, we have "Delta Machine," and that definitely goes into the no opinion / haven't really listened to it. See, this is another case of a lot of the Depeche Mode songs at this time are starting to get this blues shuffle to them. And I don't know what that's about. There are still some cool moments. Like on any Depeche Mode album, you're going to get some cool moments. But there's really just not that much standout material on this album as there was previous albums, much like Playing the Angel. And then we get to let me see if there's any standout tracks on here. I believe "Heaven" and "Should Be Higher" were the two songs that kind of were singles on this one. Then we get to their final album, which I remember being released because it didn't come out very, very long ago, and I don't really like it, honestly. I don't like what I've heard on it, and that like I said, it's Spirits, and it's got a lot more political slant to it. They have this track 2, "Where's the Revolution?" "Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down." It's kind of a condescending tone to it. I guess it's trying to comment on the fact that, like, I think this album came out during the Trump era, so it's kind of like I think the statement is like, why are you putting up with this shit? Why are you letting this happen with your country? The song that opens the album, "Going Backwards," is a similar kind of feel. "Cover Me" was a single off this album. It didn't really do anything for me. I don't hate this album, but I just really don't like it that much. And that's okay because, not everything a band can do has to be great, and they're not a band that I will ever write off because they always have those moments like the song "Wrong," where they just pull this great song out of nowhere and it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. But, overall, man, if you look at the list, from really like to nearly perfect to God tier, more than half of their catalog is in that category for me, with only a couple being meh and then a couple more being in the either haven't listened to it to fully digest it or don't like. This is a band who most of their career I really like. I think the innovation cannot be overstated for them. I mean, the peers that they have are really not that many. If you look at the 80s when they were really kind of that synth culture was really nurtured, a lot of the bands from that time period have fallen off or have not really been able to maintain the level of stardom and relevancy that Depeche Mode has been able to comfortably maintain. You have people like Gary Newman and you have all those bands like, You Spin Me Right Round, whoever did that song, Dead or Alive, all those bands that were essentially doing the same exact thing Depeche Mode was doing, but Depeche Mode was always just in their own lane, quality-wise, with everything that was going on. They were staying relevant, but they also had this extra brilliance in songwriting. And like I said, I mean, if you go back to the 80s, there's so much garbage music out there, but there also is some great music that's underneath the surface with bands like REM and like The Smiths and Depeche Mode. And, then in the late 80s, of course, you have the beginnings of great bands that would go on into the 90s, like the Smashing Pumpkins and Nine Inch Nails and Red Hot Chili Peppers. So, but Depeche Mode was definitely, one of the early ones that have maintained relevancy and popularity despite the fact that their music at its core is fucking weird. But at its core, it's also very poppy. So they have this great balance. And that's what I would describe my music as, too, as Dancing with Ghosts is very poppy, yet very dark and weird. And I love when you can marry those two things perfectly because you get the hook, you get the melody, but you also get the weird too. Because if you just have the weird or you just have the pop, sometimes it can just be too alienating. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about this Depeche Mode album tier list. Do you agree with it? What is your order? Are there Depeche Mode fans out there who hate their 90s stuff and think they went too alternative or too grunge wannabe? I'm sure there are purists who think that their first, 4 albums are the only good ones. I'm sure there's people out there who think I'm an idiot for saying their later material, was more meh, in my opinion. And by the way, these are all just my opinions, so cool your tits before you comment. Anyway, until next time, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and ring the notification bell. Have a good rest of your night.